gentlemen, welcome back to the Exceptional Conservative Show live from the nation's capital. I am your host, Exceptional One, Kevin Clinton. We are joined this particular evening with a tremendous guest. In fact, Mr. Ellison has joined us, and hopefully we're no longer having the technical issues. And it looks like we may be experiencing those particular technical issues. Good evening, sir. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here tonight.
The honor is all mine. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Great. We've overcome those technical issues. It's great to have you here. Mr. Ellison, you, my friend, have a story that most modern millennials couldn't possibly tread upon or understand. You were born to sharecroppers in West Tennessee. Could you model for those millennials who are complaining while they're drinking their maca fralati or whatever they are and protesting what life was like for you in West Tennessee?
Well, I was born on a cotton plantation, and my father at the time was a sharecropper. He worked very hard, brought us out of poverty by working in the insurance business, and we started a gospel singing group. My father taught me to play guitar when I was 9 years old, and we were forced to go to church, and we were forced to play, and we were forced to perform in front of these audiences. Yeah, man, you didn't have no choice in those days. Either, when mom and daddy said it, you did it.
Yeah.
So I had 7 siblings. We went to college, and I went to college at the University of Memphis. And when I graduated college, I started working in the prison industry in South Carolina. And that's when my eyes were opened. I thought that we had overcome because my childhood was kind of idyllic. I had a mother, had a father. My father was stern, tough, but he was a good man. And I saw in the 90s that a lot of black men my age were being locked up. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. The prison system in South Carolina had gone from 3 prisons in the 1980s to 40 by the end of the 90s. And the Clinton crime bill was locking up a lot of black men. So I asked the black intelligentsia, I said, what's going on here? And they said, oh, it's those evil, dirty, rich white Republicans that are doing it. So I resigned my post, and I decided to start a nonprofit organization to try to nail these rich white Republicans to the wall.
Yeah.
And when I got down to the black community, I found something interesting. There were no rich white Republicans. You didn't see a leopard before you saw a rich white Republican, right? But what I did see was a lot of black Democrats. And the ones I saw in particular was these 3 that I call the Iron Triangle. Most black preachers, most black civic organizers, and most black politicians. And I found that they were paid contractors, paid by liberals to ensure that 90% of the black vote voted Democrat to keep them in power. And that was it. They didn't care anything about the black community. They cared only about themselves, their money. They were being paid handsomely. They were kings of the hill. And these white liberals were paying them to keep the black community completely under control and for the Democrat Party. And that's when my eyes were open. So I wrote this book, The Iron Triangle, to explain to everybody what I found out, how I saw it, and how I came to my conclusions.
Now, the Iron Triangle, it first and foremost, the symbolic nature of what the Iron Triangle is on the cover of your book, with the hands pretty much locked in place. What did you mean with that symbolism for the reader?
That it meant that the Iron Triangle were handcuffing the black community. Me as a black man, I was being handcuffed, not being free, not allowing me to do the things that I needed to do because they were controlling the educational system, which kept us under control for the Democrat Party. They were controlling, they were destroying the black family. They were controlling everything in the black community. They would control every drug house, every drug corner, every failing school. They controlled the mayors. They controlled the police departments. They controlled the sheriff's department. They controlled the city councils. They controlled the school boards. And if you look at any black community, you'll find that any inner city black community, you find they have absolute, complete control, and they will not let it go. And they know they're destroying it. But this is what they want because they're getting 90% of the vote, and that's all they care about. 90% of the black vote. That's it.
You know, I got to ask you here, Ms. Ellison, because I'm going to play devil's advocate. They call me the exceptional one, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here. if it were not for those Democrats caring for black women who were single parents in those impoverished communities, where would they get the support necessary to carry on in life? They would be forced to raise babies that they did not want. They would be forced to live in greater poverty. And there would be more hopelessness and more crime if it wasn't for those Democrat programs available to provide relief and suffrage for Black America.
Well, they would then have to stay either home with their fathers and their mothers, or they'd have to marry the fathers of the children, which is what is proper and what is right. The biggest problem we have in Black America is fatherlessness. And the Democratic Party during the 60s created a welfare state that paid women to kick the man out of the house. It was called the Man Out Clause. It came about during the Civil Rights Movement when the feminists rejected the Moynihan Report. Moynihan Report said that they needed to use all federal money to put the black man back in charge of the family. And the feminists and the Civil Rights Movement completely rejected it. And when they kicked it out, they put in the Man Out Clause. And in one generation, the black community went from being 80% being born in wedlock to 80% being born out of wedlock. So if this wasn't there, they would have done what they had done for the past 100 years. They would have married the fathers or stayed at home with the grandfather, and the children would have been better off, and you wouldn't have all this crime and all of this brokenness and all the terrible things happening in the black community right now.
And continuing my devil's advocate here, there would be those who would say, wait a minute, you are speaking in an ancient of day mentality. You are litigating women to poverty and a lack of a career pursuit because they got pregnant. Apparently, you hate black women and you hate women who want to be free and independent. Is that what you're stating, sir?
So we got back in here.
Okay. Okay, do you hear? Running into a bit of a technical issue and a problem. But I'm going to encourage each and every one of you all tonight to make this particular book, The Iron Triangle, part of your purchasing power this weekend. Is a tremendous book by a tremendous man, Mr. Everett Ellison, who is with us tonight, Vince Everett Ellison, author of Iron Triangle. And what he's speaking to on this particular evening is the simple fact that African Americans have done far worse under the Democrat regime than they could have possibly have done on their own. And it is very unfortunate, but we're having a difficult time getting Mr. Ellison technical issues, apparently. We're going to go to a quick commercial. We're going to come back, and hopefully we can finish our interview this evening with Mr. Ellison, tremendous writer indeed. Thank you so much. We will be right back. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Very handsome Vince Everett Ellison with us tonight. And we're talking about the incredible situation that we're facing in America right now with the lack of stability in the urban community. Mr. Ellison, you mentioned about the instability that because of the welfare state that was created by the Democrats from the 1930s through the 1960s with the Civil Rights Bill and welfare reform done by LBJ, that the feminist movement took advantage of that and kicked the black man out the door, which led to lower education outcomes, higher crime and recidivism, and a sense of brokenness in the family fabric, which had other issues that come with that. We have individuals today who say that the answer is not the answer that you want to provide in terms of family stability, a encroachment or embrace of capitalism, individual entrepreneurs, and as well academic success. That's not what's going to save urban America. What's going to save urban America is embracing Marxism and communism and socialism, holding on to those ideas that the state can do a whole lot better than the individual. I want to ask you, sir, is that what you're hearing? And are those individuals that are affectionately posing that to you right or wrong?
Oh, they're completely wrong. And as you notice, they never posed a question like that. It's a bait and switch, man. They'll
Yep.
try to tell you that they want to help you, that they want to take care of you, but it's like the snake in the garden. You know, he always has a little game that he's playing, right?
Yep.
And this is never free. You're going to have to give them something for it. You got to give them your soul or something. And that's what we didn't believe. We still believe in our mind. Since the March on Washington with Martin Luther King Jr. in his great I Have a Dream speech said, 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. That wasn't true. Our freedom comes from God. John
Yeah.
Locke said it is an unalienable right. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, it is unsellable. He then said we come to government for our unalienable rights in the same speech. Our unalienable rights don't come from government. They come from God. One of these rights include the right to self-defense, the right to own property, the right to life. They can be infringed upon. They can be abridged, but they cannot be taken. They are yours, and you only have to exercise them. But they made us believe that we must ask permission. And because we believe that, we keep going to government and say, we want our freedom. We want jobs. We want to do this. We want to do that. It's like owning a car and not driving it. It's yours. Exercise your right. So they gave us this poison pill and
Yeah.
we swallowed it. And for the last 60 years, we've been trying to start a car with no gas in it
Yep.
because they told us just keep kicking the tire, keep kicking the tire. And so guess what? 50 years later, we're still going to government demanding that they take care of us, and they can't. I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
They will tell you right now that it's the job of the police to protect you. Even though the Supreme Court said in Shaun versus Winnebago County that it is not the job of the police to protect you. They are not your security guard. It is your job and your responsibility to protect yourself. And even though the Supreme Court has ruled it, and your unalienable rights tell you that the police, and your common sense tells you that the police cannot be in your house at 3 a.m. when a guy kicked the door in, they still want to go and say, police, you're supposed to protect us. And the police cannot do it. They are not clairvoyant. This is not Minority Report with Tom Cruise. They cannot see into the future.
Yep.
So even though you try to make them do it, it is impossible for them to do it. And if police could protect you, Detroit, Chicago, LA, and Memphis would be the safest places on earth. but they cannot do it. It is your right. It is an inalienable right given you by God. And what do? Black folks say, well, the police are hunting us and the gangs are
Mm-hmm.
killing us. What do? Democrat plan, give us your gun. Why don't you
Wow.
just be expeditious about it and blow your own brains out? Voting for the Democrats is like a chicken voting for Colonel Sanders. It does not work. It does not work. It has never worked. Everywhere they have a reverse Midas touch, man. Everything they touch turns to crap. Look at the
But
inner cities.
but
The more
wait a minute,
control they have, the more terrible things are.
Mr. Ellison. Wait a minute. You're telling me that 90% of black people are errant, that they're wrong? I mean, we have to follow 90% because everyone can't be wrong in that group, right?
Well, Jesus Christ said this. He said, there will be many that will come in my name, and they will do great works. They will do such great things that they could fool the very elect. And his disciples said, Lord, how will we know them? He said, by their fruits.
Mm.
He didn't say by their works or by what they say, or even their deeds, by what they produce.
Wow.
That's how you will know them. He said, you will not get rotten fruit from a good tree. And you won't get rotten fruit from a good tree. You won't get good fruit from a rotten tree. He said, each fruit will be like the tree that it comes from. Now look at the black community and
Mm-hmm.
look at the fruit and tell me what type of tree it is. If the
Wow.
fruit is rotten, the tree has to be rotten. And what has happened with us, in my book, I have a chapter on cognitive dissonance and Stockholm syndrome. We all know
Yes.
about Patty Hearst, how she was
Yes.
kidnapped, raped, and brutalized. And the next thing we know, she's helping the Sudanese Liberation Army rob banks. And when they tried to take away, she fought the police, man. She was helping them. Well, after 200 years of oppression, of course, that is what happened to the black community. We started identifying with our masters. This is the truth. Juneteenth, 300,000 Union Republican troops died to free
Mm-hmm.
black people from the Democratic plantation. After they told them they were free, 90% walked right back on the plantation.
Mm.
Again, my
Mm.
grandfather could not vote until Eisenhower and Richard Nixon passed the 1957 Civil Rights Act and the 1960 Civil Rights Act, and he voted for the first time in 1960. The amazing thing about it is John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson voted against that act. The first time, and the Ku Klux Klan, the military wing of the Democratic Party, had ran him off of the cotton plantation for registering to vote. The FBI was sent there by Eisenhower to tell my grandfather he did not have to leave. Now the Republicans kept him on his house, gave him his right to vote, protected him. But my father told me that the first time he voted straight Democrat. Why? I asked him why. He said because black people did what white folks told them to. That was it.
Wow. So
All of them did. 80% of the black vote went for the Democrats in 1960, even though all of the Democrats were segregationists. They were the ones that were shooting water hoses and beating them
yeah.
down. And they voted for them, and they remained Democrats. The only one that turned was Strom Thurmond. The rest of them, Eastman, Favors,
Wallace.
all of them.
Yep.
Wallace, they all remained Democrats, and black folks voted for them up until the 80s.
Now, Sal, I gotta ask you here. I mean, there are some very educated PhD ministers in the black communities, and they've studied at Harvard, and they've studied at Yale, and they've studied at Cornell, and at Stanford, and Dallas Seminary, Theological Seminary, and all these other places of great repute. How is it that that message of liberty and freedom from the seminary is not getting into the streets and into the churches and into the homes of so many black people?
These people have infiltrated every part of our society.
Whoa.
When we decided to integrate with them, they had the ability to go in and get our best and brightest and choose. And that's what affirmative action did also. People say affirmative action is good. No, affirmative action gave to our master the ability to choose our leadership.
Mm-hmm.
They decided who was going to go to the colleges and universities. They decided who's going to get in corporate America. They decided who's going to run for office. You think they was going to choose Malcolm X? No. They chose from the house Negro class.
Oh my goodness, We just lost him. Mr. Ellison is on a roll. Oh my God. But he's absolutely right. We're having some technical difficulties again. Uh, and so, oh my God, you're on a, we got to get you back here, Mr. Ellison. Um, Listen, we are experiencing some technical difficulties, and we want you to know that the Iron Triangle is available to you. We want you to get that particular book as soon as you possibly can. It is easy to do. You can go to Vince Everett Ellison. He is the author of Iron Triangle at Vince E. Ellison. Oh my God, I would love to have a great conversation with him again. And we're looking forward to that in the not too distant future. We apologize for the technical difficulties that we've experienced this evening. This will not be the last time. We're going to do our very best to get him back on the air with us. What a sincerely brilliant man. Just absolutely brilliant. It is a message that we have to promote loud and clear to the world. Please, whatever you do, go to Amazon or order the Iron Triangle. Listen, we will be back with more of the best in urban conservative talk. I am your host, Exceptional One, Ken McClinton, TECN TV president as well. You are watching TECN TV. We are a republic, and we certainly are not a democracy. And as well, we are the best at urban conservative news, talk, and movies. And we are so apologetic we lost Mr. Ellison in our conversation this evening. We will work hard to get him back on the air with us. Hang in there. God bless you. We will be back with more of the best right after these messages.